Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, a podcast devoted to helping you overcome challenges in your life that prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode features interviews with people from all walks of life about their journey of self-development and the principles they utilize to overcome their fears to achieve their desired outcome. Ready to be enlightened? Here's your host, Ken Primus.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As you know, this is one of my favorite spaces right here because it gives me the opportunity to honor our guests. And I want to thank them truly from the bottom of my heart, my being, for their time. A couple of commodities that I deem very expensive. Time is one of them. What a precious, precious gift that has been offered to all of us. 24 hours a day. TikTok, I tell people, have you learned to honor time? Have you learned to respect her? Because if you have, your relationships will change, your decisions will change, your mindset will change because you have an understanding of who she is. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator, and it has created the individual that is before us. And I want to thank you so much. I want to, from the bottom of my heart, Malia, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment to share with us a couple of things that you have gained through your journey, some ingredients that have been deposited inside of you. Those ingredients are wisdom, knowledge, insights, foresight. We want to dance in them, and we want to thank you for coming and sharing all of it with us here at Threads of Enlightenment. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It is my pure joy and honor to be here with you today.
It's an honor. I want you to introduce yourself and tell the people this question I asked. How do you serve mankind?
Yes, thank you for asking. Well, hello everyone, and I hope this finds you well today. Last year, when I was leading my sold out retreat in Sedona, I went to bed one night as my human named Jennifer. And I woke up in the middle of the night as Mother Malia, the Great Mother, and I have been in this energy ever since. And so I asked Mother Malia, why are you here now? Why have you not come before? And she said, there is a great urgency on the planet, and 6 days later, the bombing started in Israel. Now, of course, there are many concerning things on the planet, but why I am here is to clear up every single distortion that the programmers have put into the humans so that we can have full restoration of our sovereignty, full restoration of our planet, and full restoration of heaven on earth. That is the easiest way I will say that.
I tell people that what we have to do, and most of the sages are coming to help us remember who we are. And so once we begin to embark on that journey of remembering who we are, we call that the self-development and so forth. So yes, I'm excited to have you here. And there have been, if you will, a tremendous amount of disturbance in the force, especially when it began there in Israel. And it kind of tapped into several timelines, if you will, for events to begin to happen on this planet Earth. And so thank you so much for showing up and to help us understand some of these things. One of the customs that we have here at President Enlightenment is to go back into that time with the memory, to visit the first space that we hang out. We come into this planet after we've been born in the hospital. They take us home. It is called a home.
Yes.
And at this place called home, we have two individuals that we are told, are mom and dad. And mom and dad, from whatever trauma they were impacted as young ones, they have their intentions and their perspective guided by that. They are now going to deposit data into you. What was your family unit like?
Yes, I'm so glad that you asked. Well, I remember seeing orbs when I was in my crib at 10 months old, and I
Wow.
was very telekinetic as a child. At age 3, I remember objects moving around my room, etc. I remember my body stretching and feeling like I was becoming 12 feet tall. And my point for sharing this is that my parents took me for my first past life regression when I was 3, 4 years old with them. And we went to
Wow.
see a trance channel for an entire day because they wanted to find out, why did we come together as a family? Why are each of us here? Why did they come together as a couple, etc.? And so they were very spiritually open. My mom's dad was a psychic medium with the police and solving crimes. And my dad's dad was very much, I will say, an animal whisperer. You know,
Yeah.
they still brought a lot of trauma. They were still very much in their human, if you know what I'm saying. My dad was a
Yeah.
rageaholic. My
Wow.
mom, I will say both of them were narcissistic, and I don't say that loosely. I am actually clinically trained to say that in my former life. And so I grew up. Here is what I talk about, and I love that we're on the same page because Mother Malia talks a lot about our annoyances are our anointings. And
Hmm.
the same will be true for the trauma. We can alchemize the trauma into gold. For example, I am here in spite of my trauma and because of my trauma, and that is true for each of us. And
Yeah.
so the gift of having two narcissistic parents is that I run a very good service-based business because I really know how to make it about other people, to the exception of myself, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And so, was it always fun to be gaslit and to kind of already be in a world and say, oh goodness, what is this world? And then to feel like I am standing on a Bosu ball constantly in the home? No. And then I went to school. I was upsetting people without knowing why. Well, it was because I knew things that I thought everyone knew. I will just speak very matter of fact, not knowing that I was saying things that I shall not know or were making people feel uncomfortable. And so I took the conventional path and I went to a university. I trained as a forensic social worker and I went into forensic social work for many, many years, which is where I really got exposed to the trauma and really
Yeah.
see the impact of, abuse and harm by omission and mental health issues and various such things, cycles of violence. But I could not. The interesting thing about being a public servant is that the agencies, whether it is a school, whether it is a probation, whether it is violence, mental health, etc., they are very upset all the time because their clients don't change, but they are the worst change agents ever. They just they stay stuck themselves with the agencies. And
Yeah.
so I thought, goodness, I am working about 18-hour days. And I could actually make more money at a coffee shop than I am back to your comment about the time, for the amount of time I was spending and the amount of time I was losing. And I thought there's got to be a better way. I need to help the people. And I also can't live below the poverty line all the time for the rest of my life. That's not going to work for me. So I started my business 20 years ago. And of course, the business, as you know as well, will also bring up the trauma that you don't realize is there
Oh,
or the
yeah.
impact of the trauma by way of calling in clients. You can really get those, many wonderful clients, of course. And then there's the handful of clients that really unknowingly, unintentionally poke at the buttons that force you to say, am I going to deal with this issue or am I not going to deal with this issue? Yeah.
Yeah, that is powerful. I love this. What a training ground you had with
Yes.
the parents that
Yeah.
you had selected to come to this world through. Having both of them at that level of the yin and yang, open spiritually, but yet governed by their trauma in such a fashion
Yeah.
that it overshadowed their openness as spiritual beings, which is truly fascinating to me to
Yeah.
that level. But I could see where, when someone is there, that it would be a dark place to be in and to be trained by, and have on top of that the spiritual awakening that you've had from such a young child. Wow, what a training ground. So here you are,
Yes.
and then you went in, you became an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur, I tell people, the entrepreneur mind is an individual that doesn't subscribe to the quote unquote the program, the natural program that is out there. They'll mingle in it for a little while and then they'll find a way to begin to escape from it because they see it doesn't serve them. As you are stated, it did not serve you with the type of time and hours that you were spending and the return that you were given. And then you talked about your clients. I love it because your clients will always be
Yeah.
mirrors to a point of you to be able to probe those spaces that you must deal with. So now here you are, a grown woman, and you are having your own practice, and you have those wonderful clients that are
Yeah.
just tapping on those areas that you need to have a conversation with.
Yeah.
At what point did you surrender and say, okay, let's begin?
Oh, that is a great question. Well, when I started my business 20 years ago, and I can already tell that you're cut from the same cloth, because I did not focus on the money at all. I still to this day am a puzzle to my accountant and other such people because I just don't focus on the money, even though I have been very abundant over the years, because I was just so honored to be able to help other people.
Yeah.
And so I just constantly focused on contribution. And I see that there are two types of entrepreneurs, those that really focus on the contribution and those
Hmm.
that focus on significance.
Yeah.
Meaning, I want to be part of the cool entrepreneur
Hmm.
club. I want to be on the
Yeah.
TV. I want to have the labels, etc. There's nothing wrong with that. There is a need for that, sadly, because that is how humans operate, and we kind of have to speak to the humans the way they will speak. That in my first year, I did not realize that my trauma was at play. I was working 7 hours a day or 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. People will say, well, I'm in this time zone. Can I have a reading with you that is convenient for me? And I will say, okay, I guess I'll set my alarm and wake up at 1 a.m. to do a reading for someone. I didn't tell them that. But I was in complete servitude because of the training of the narcissistic parent.
Yeah.
Now, this
Yeah.
is where it gets interesting because I still didn't know I had a narcissistic parent. I didn't discover that until a few years ago when I kept having clients come to me talking about their narcissistic moms, and I will say, there's a lot of similarities there. But what I did know is that being in servitude and helping others at the expense of myself was not going to work anymore. So I had to start learning about setting boundaries because, as you know, if
Yeah.
you're raised by a narcissist, you're just not allowed to have boundaries, you
There's no
know?
boundaries there. Yeah.
I said yes to anyone that wanted to work with me. It didn't matter. I had clients and I loved all my clients, don't get me wrong, but I had people that would just get out of jail. Sure, come on over to my house and sit in my house with me alone as a woman that is sure, oh, okay, you're part of the mafia, but your mom sent you because she's trying to fix you through me. Okay, sure, come on in my house. And anyways, but what happened was I went to the bank and I saw all of the money that was in there because you see, I was getting paid cash. And I went to
Yeah.
the bank one day and I was very overwhelmed by how much money was in there because I was used to living below the poverty line.
Yeah.
And it was very triggering for me. But I remember saying to myself, oh, this shall not be triggering to me. It is. I'm going to lean in and I'm going to start using money as my healer and really
Yeah.
start to look at the mirrors of what money is showing me about where I have opportunities to have full sovereignty. And so I needed to learn. I realized I could receive money, but I had a hard time holding money, which is a
Yeah.
very common thing for many people. It comes in and it goes out just as fast as it comes in, or we're finding ways to get rid of it because we feel whatever we feel about what it means about us to hold the money. And so naturally, because I was doing readings, for anyone that does readings, one of the most common questions is, where's the money? How come I
There's the
don't have
money.
more money? That kind of thing. And so I didn't also discover until a few years ago that my human astrology chart, I was really actually here to ensure that the healers are financially resourced. So all this time I was talking about money because it was bringing me into my calling without me realizing. But it was through there that when you start helping other people specifically with money, boy, does the stuff ever accelerate. The projections,
Yeah.
the interesting dances you could do with your clients. I really started to learn what it means to be castrated because money tends to be more of a masculine energy. And so when we are providing service, whether we are male or female. There can be a castration and a need to, and some gaslighting, a lot of push and pull, various such things. So I had to learn to evolve out of setting boundaries and into holding standards. You know,
Yeah.
therapists, for example, hold boundaries, but leaders and CEOs hold standards. And there is a difference because when you become the standard, people feel the frequency of that and they tend to respond to the standard and tend to not run as much silly business on you, when you are really holding
Yeah.
the standard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All of those things, the standards and boundaries are to protect the individual. And we don't, when you're coming from a narcissist background and narcissist programming, we want to please everyone. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
please enough people. But as you stated, there is, if you do that lifestyle, there will be a depletion of your energy, of anything and everything that you are. Your
Yeah.
strength, everything will be sapped out of you because there is no stop gap, if you will. There's nothing to prevent you from saying no because you have no standards. You haven't developed those things yet in order to
Yeah.
start protecting yourself. And so, as you began to incorporate all of these different things, as you began to focus on yourself, what were some of those tools that you brought into your being to assist you to begin to create those standards and also to put in place some of those boundaries to kind of keep certain people out and bring and keep certain people in?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Well, a very simple thing will have been journaling. And
Yeah.
I will write letters to money, or I will
Hmm.
write letters to my business as though it was a person. I obviously know it wasn't, but I already knew that my relationship with a person was going to be overlapping the stress that I was having in my money or my business. So, for example, my very first awareness was I was writing a letter to money, and I started by saying, Money, I don't understand. You show
Hmm.
up, but I still feel like you're not there for me. I feel like you're physically here, but not emotionally here. And right away, ding, 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 I said, Oh my goodness, this is my relationship with my father.
Wow,
And
that is
that's when I
incredible.
realized, oh, I need to turn this into a daily practice because it's
Yeah.
never about the money, as you know. Money is just
Hmm.
neutral, simply absorbs the projections,
Yes.
unconscious, that we will place on it because we are in relationship with money and we are in relationship with everything. So it is going to mirror back a relationship of some kind, perhaps with ourselves, perhaps with society, perhaps with our past, etc., etc. And so I will just let it rip, so to speak. I will just write a scathing letter to money sometimes and say, what is going on? And it will reveal something. But ultimately, then I started writing to money, letters to money, saying, Hello, money. Here is the kind of relationship I would like to have with you now. What is required of me in order for us to have that kind of relationship? And so then I will get insights from my own consciousness, of course, about, actually need to, like what I have learned over the years is money blocks are not really money blocks. Yes, of course, trauma can impact it, neurodivergence can impact it,
Hmm.
etc. But ultimately, because I am here because of and in spite of trauma, as are you, Ken, and as are all of you listening, that trauma, yes, can slow things down, but we can still actually create a lot of wonderful things with trauma. And so
I believe
I
that.
will have the awareness of, yes, there are anointings in here that are waiting for me to uncover. So to give you another example, when I became Mother Malia, if you want to learn what it's like to be projected upon very quickly, become a trans channel and become essentially a walk-in. Goodness, I like to joke that I had 20 years to master the art of being misunderstood to prepare me for this time. The reason I'm sharing this is because the word mother is very triggering for a lot of people. Now, Mother Malia
Yeah.
does not mean I'm everyone's mother. It simply means I am a grand steward of humanity, essentially. But for my
Yeah.
20 years in business, here's why it is relevant. Because I will often have people want me to be their mom, and they will try to enmesh with me, try to be codependent, try to get me to make their ouchie better, where they will go into a very young voice. And there were times where people will ask me to be their mom, and I will get very annoyed. But that was the
Yeah.
golden thread for all the 20 years. Well, all of this time I was channeling Mother Malia beside me, but then she took over the mouth essentially, you see. And the anointing was all of these people actually unconsciously were recognizing the great mother in me,
Yeah.
but I was resisting my own medicine.
Yeah.
And so they were a huge gift to me over the years to annoy me. They were not
Yeah.
annoying people, don't get me wrong, but it felt annoying to say, I am not your mother. I am your coach. I am your, whatever. Then I realized, my goodness, all of these 20 years, people were trying to anoint me and I was just resisting the anointing. And then Mother Malia
Yeah.
had to just come in and take over and say, out of the way, human. I must control the mouth now because we have a very important mission now to help humanity.
Yeah. It's about helping each other. And I tell people our journey is twofold. The first, as I mentioned to you on the onset, is that we first get an opportunity to engage in finding out who we are.
Yes.
And that is a beautiful journey. But then there's another one, the one that when we have to be the interdependent one, when we work with each other because we are united. Human beings, when we work we are here at the same frequency, if you will. If I can see you because you and I are at a different frequency, and versus some other things that are moving at a different frequency that I can't see in another
Yeah.
realm, but they're here. They're all around us. It's just we
Yeah.
can't see all the different beings around us because they're moving at a different frequency than we are. But
Yeah.
we can see each other because of that frequency. Money moves at a frequency as well. And so we have to learn about all of these different frequencies, and most people call that realm the quantum realm, if you will, or the spiritual realm. And in there, um, you have to recognize, and I've never heard this in my entire life. Anyone writing, I'm 62, and I've never heard anyone wrote a letter to money as an individual like that, to have
Yeah.
that type of conversation with money
Yeah.
and to begin to express the type of relationships, the disappointments, all of that. And so, again, all of you that have been listening to us, I always try to switch the podcast a little and ask you, did you hear what she has said, what Mother Molly has said about the relationship with money? Maybe you are in that state where it comes and goes and you're not able to hold it. Go back and listen to this thing again so that you can hear it. In fact, what we're going to do is give you her links and stuff like that so you can go get to her, straight to her, so that she can educate you as to some of those things that she learned on her journey while writing those letters. So here you are. You are expounding the self. You're growing. You're learning all of these different things. You have your clients who are secretly your teachers to try and make you aware of something, and you've been fighting it
Yeah.
for many years. As you learned and have this relationship with money and it begins to change, how did your relationship with money, as you began to change that, because that also will begin to manifest in changing your relationship with others. How did
Yeah.
that process begin to manifest and unfold before?
Yes. Well, I started getting really what seemed like odd downloads, I will just call them. I was in conversation with money and it said, you must build a real estate empire. I said, I am a healy-feely person. What do you mean I am here to build a real estate empire? That's not part of my mission. Well, turns out it actually was, but I don't mean I built a big empire, but I needed to have these external, I will just say for ease, three-dimensional human ways to learn to have money be outside of me, right?
Yeah.
Investing in real estate taught me a lot about the questions I was not asking. It taught me a lot about paying attention to intuition instead of just believing people because they told me something was a good deal.
Mhm.
When it is time to sell, etc. I was also guided to have full sovereignty over my money. And so instead of going to a financial advisor, I was guided to learn how to invest in the stock market on my own. And I used to get very irritated because when you are doing the stock market, it forces you to look money in the eyes. And most people are not willing to look money in the eyes, and so it's very much telling you what is going on and how much you're willing to let your money garden grow. Most people want to get the soil out, get the garden out, and they want to have money garden, but they're not even willing to put the seeds in there and to water it a little bit. So the stock market, as an example, will be a money garden because I had to learn to not just have money in the account, but to let it grow without feeling like I needed to treat it like a hot potato and get it out of my field as quickly as possible. Because then we know that garden starts to cross-pollinate, and all of a sudden we have money and opportunities show up in other ways. And so learning these three-dimensional ways to allow in money, and I just allow myself to have fun and experiment, understanding that money was going to be my teacher. I took a course in how to be a day trader. It turns out I don't have the personality to be a day trader, so I just let that go. I even had to learn which parts of real estate match the way that I would like to move through the world. What ways do I like to invest in the stock market? I learned that I actually have a very high risk tolerance. I will not have known that about myself. But all of that to say, what I have learned, this is a big deal. So for everyone listening, this is what you will want to hear if you can allow yourself to hear this, is that the only difference between $1, $10, $100, a million, etc., are the zeros. And zeros literally mean nothing. When you add 0 plus 0, it is still 0. So all of the zeros do is magnify the harmonic of the number that is already there. When we start to hold great neutrality around money, understanding that, yes, of course, in society, a $1 is more, is not the same as $100, for example. I get that. But as far as our relationship to it, if $1 has no more meaning than $100, we can start to allow money in more easily because we are not making nothing mean something.
Yes. The expectation is what gets us in trouble.
Yes.
And when we learn to not expect to allow, there's a difference between that. And because when you expect something in how you put it within your mindset, that's nothing. That's just your mindset. The universe and the universal mind is bigger than that little mindset you have. But if you're locked in there, and that's all you're expecting in that particular format, you're missing so many different ways that money can manifest that is beyond your wildest dream. But you have placed a restriction on it based on your mindset. And so that's one of the things about money that you have to learn is a degree of allowing it to manifest other ways than what you have placed in your mind. As Mother Malia was talking about, she began to learn about her personality as she began to look at money. She didn't know she could be this and that. Why? Because she was open to learning about herself through money. And so, guys, don't lock yourself in with your preconceived ideas. You're just putting yourself in a prison. The world and the mind is bigger than that. Open yourself to it. So here, as you begin to understand the deepness of you and your personality, the richness of you within the realm of finance, talk to us as to some of those clients that are now showing up, because they're going to be somewhat of a little different quality, if you will, than the ones that were at the first showing when they showed up. What were some of your clients looking like as they began to come back into your state?
Back in the day, there were a lot of people looking for me to save the day as their mom, to make it better. I say this very playfully there, and it still happens now because people feel entitled to get results just because they swipe a credit card, right? So they want the biggest. I mean, I'll have to backtrack for a moment because in this world that we live in, that we call the Matrix or whatever we want to call it, one of the first programs, one of the first paradigms that the controllers install in the humans is the inversion of savior, sacrifice, suffering, right? So we're either looking to save people, we are either looking to be saved, we believe people are suffering, and we feel we have to sacrifice something to have something. I have to sacrifice my health for money. I have to sacrifice relationships for money, etc., etc. That bleeds into religion, that bleeds into the school system, it bleeds into money, etc. And that is by design to control us, because that is the first paradigm that keeps us separate from our sovereignty. Because we are here to remember our full sovereignty in our original
Yeah.
coding, when we are pure and we are beings and there is no interference.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is, and we see this even in the light leader community now, people will scream about be sovereign, but they still operate from learned helplessness, right? They want someone else to make it better. And so now with my clients, I simply don't allow for money objections. When people reach out and say, I would like to work with you, I'm simply not available for the money objections, because money objections is a triangle. The people are not, because if someone says to me, I would love to work with you, but I don't have the money, I say, great. How much money do you need? They will say $1 million. I will say, great, here's $1 million. And they'll say, well, I still can't work with you because I have to wait for my kids to graduate. I still can't do my mission because I have to wait for my kids to graduate. Okay, great. I just gave your children their certificates and perfect jobs that you want for them. And then they will say, well, I can't grow my business because I have to be on video and I want to lose 10 pounds. I'll say, great, here's your ideal body. You see, we are triangulating outside of ourselves, because the real issue with money, if we are going to drill it right down to the real issue, money allows us to spread our mission. And we are afraid of our mission and the potency of our mission, because we are the mission. And so as long as I keep triangulating onto money as the reason I can't have what I want, or my body, or my partner, or my children, or Mercury retrograde, or any host of other things, then I get to stay in learned helplessness, all while screaming that the controllers are taking away my sovereignty.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been trying to educate my audience about this from the beginning of day one.
Yeah.
And it is, you are enough, I would tell them. You are enough. You just have to learn how to deprogram yourself as to them telling you that you are not enough, you're helpless, you're worthless, all of those things. Why are they saying that? Because they have to keep you that way in order for you to not understand who you are. Because the minute you
Yes.
understand who you are, you're outside of their paradigm. You're no longer under their control. You have become a creator. You are no longer working on the default programming. You are now
Yeah.
designing your life. You're designing what you want, and they're afraid of anyone that is going to do that. And that is
Yes.
why you have them spending billions of dollars to keep you in the dark of what? Of who you are.
Yes.
I have known and met people who have healed themselves from cancer. One of the most dangerous things out there, once they came out from under the paradigm of programming in the healthcare system.
Yeah.
I've seen it because they tap into who they are, the inner being, that subconscious being, and they pursued a different route, and they got their healing from cancer, from some of the most major stuff out there. So then one must ask the question, how is that possible?
Yes. Well, that is just it. And we know that everything is frequencies. With the
Yeah,
money, one of the things that will happen for people that are awake, they will say it's fiat currency. I'm allergic to fiat currency. I say, well, why don't you actually use their own system against them and outcreate
hmm,
the system? We have to,
yeah,
we are straddling both worlds. We are straddling the old world and the new world. And so we have to use the system to outcreate the system as we dismantle it, you see.
yeah,
And the truth is that money is the language spoken here. That is not something
hmm,
we decided. That is just the language that is spoken here. If it was coconuts, we will have to learn the language of coconuts as far as exchange,
yeah,
right? But money is the language, the system that has been given to us. So we can resist it because we know who created it, or we can say, great, thank you for the tool. I'm going to use it to outcreate your nonsense.
yeah. And because the body keeps us in this natural realm. When we are we are in it. But so we have to
Yeah,
learn how to function within it, because my body is a part of it. And so my
yes,
body, there's certain my natural mind and that aspect of who I am is a part of it, but my subconscious mind or my soul is also alive and willing, and I tell people the journey is to allow the subconscious mind to become the ruler of you, because the subconscious mind is you, truly
Yes.
you. And you have to learn to make that. And that journey comes with a lot of turbulence. As I tell them, I said, when a plane is flying from one destination to another, there are always turbulence. You may not feel bad ones in some cases from one situation to another, but then they're from one situation to another where the turbulence are intense. And yet there's
Yes.
this little thing in front of this pilot that keeps him or her focused. And so I tell people, find your center, your North Star, your compass. And when Malia is talking about your compass through the vision of money and how money relates to all of this thing.
Yes.
I'm going to give you guys her information. You got to get there, guys, because you
Yes.
have to gain more understanding of certain things that are happening in your life. And it is always good to sit at the feet of a sage to assist you to gain that insight. There's 12 young men that sat at the feet of someone and changed the entire world. So it can be done. Here you are, you told us on the onset that I think it was earlier this year when that war took place that uh, you decided that Jennifer has to sit down
Yes.
and I need to begin to open my mouth and begin to announce to the natural world the power of the supernatural. Talk to us about some of those insights that you
Yeah.
feel necessary for us to begin to contemplate, to begin to search, to begin to meditate on, to make
Yeah.
those changes necessary in our life.
Yes, well, thank you for asking that. I would like to go back to the turbulence actually, because when I first became Mother Malia and I had to fly home, I had to arrange for handlers to come and get me basically because I thought, oh goodness, it was I felt like a newborn baby. My human knew
Yeah,
how to navigate an airport, to drive a vehicle, etc. But in this new energy, I still don't really do that. I still have handlers that come with me when I need to travel, etc. In part
yeah,
because I need someone to keep me in check and let me know when I'm going what I call full Malia, where my eyes close and my hands start going and
yeah,
etc. But my point is, I think I was about 3 or 4 days old and I had to fly back home and I had to go to the bathroom and the turbulence light came on. And I have a new policy that I say, we all did, having to raise our hand in school to ask for permission to go take care of a biological function. And I said, I simply refused to do that. So the light came on and the flight attendant said to me, oh, you'll need to go back to your seat. I said, oh, I'm actually going to go into that seat first. Thank you. And I closed the door quickly. I locked it. And I sat down and, had to go to the bathroom. And, but the turbulence really started and I got so excited. And I thought, because you see, Mother Malia is the steward of the bees. So I have great resonance for the buzzing of the bees and needing to be very buoyant, etc. And so I stood up in the bathroom and I put my arms out and I leaned against the wall in the bathroom. We all know how small those bathrooms are. And I was having so much fun with the turbulence. And Mother Malia reminded me that when the birds come against a gust of wind that is working against them, they turn it into a playground. They fly into the strong wind and they start doing the acrobats and they do the diving and the swirling around. And if you watch them in the wind, they are having just a marvelous time. So even in the
yeah,
turbulence, we can say, great, how do I use this turbulence to be a playground? It's happening anyways. The wind is not doing anything to me. The wind is just being wind. How do I dance with the element of the wind? And how do I use the wisdom of the wind to be able to dance and play and to move my body differently, etc.? You see? So that is a little fun thing I thought I will share about the turbulence because you brought it up. But the very first thing I learned from Mother Malia is that we are the gift, we are the ceremony, we are the celebration.
yeah. We are it.
Yes.
The turbulence, as I tell people, the turbulence, and you're absolutely 100% right. How you look at your turbulence will determine how long you stay in your turbulence.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you have to change your perspective as to what it is and why it's there. And I have my sons, and I would tell them when my sons were growing up, and I told them as a father, my greatest desire is not for you not to go through your journey. My greatest desire is for you to use your perspective so that you're not there a minute longer than you need to be.
Yes.
And you have to look at every turbulence or every situation and look at it for what it truly is. It
Yes.
is an opportunity for you to tap into your creator, period.
Yes.
It is not for something for you to go, my whole world is crashing. No, you put
Yes.
yourself in a state of meditation and you began to use the energy of it as they use the energy of the wing to dance. And when you began to use that energy for your betterment, the sting of it disappears, the
Yes.
flavor of it changes, and you're able
Yes.
to enjoy and dance, as you say, within that. When someone looks into it, they're like, how in the world can you smile? How can you be happy when your world is in turmoil?
Yes.
Because you understood the secret of the purpose of the turmoil. And when you
Yes.
do that, life becomes beautiful because every turbulence is an opportunity for you to dance. You just have to figure it
Yes.
out and listen to the right tunes and the music that is there, and you will
Yes.
be able to dance. It'll change your life. So here
Yes.
we are in today's world, and you came with an urgency, and you had to put again Jennifer aside, and I'm sure Jennifer has it finally had to go. Okay, I surrender. Let me sit
Yes.
down.
Yeah.
As you have here and you have this urgency within your being, begin
Yes.
to make us aware of some of those things that you know that we are still not privy to, if you will, to help us
Yes.
to move us through from the current programs that have been holding us in place,
Yes.
to help us to release ourselves from the program that we may begin to become useful in the
Yes.
coming time frame, if you will.
Yes. Well, the first thing, as I mentioned, is we are the gift, the ceremony, the celebration. The programmers want us to believe that we are a problem. They view us as dirty, dumb, disgusting humans,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is literally their philosophy. And so they create the problem paradigm. We are actually meant to live in the possibility paradigm, but in the problem paradigm, I'm a problem, you're a problem, my body's a problem, my thoughts are a problem. We start managing problems. And being a manager is not being the CEO of our life. So as long as we are busy, distracted, solving problems, we are not living in possibility. And I will just like to offer a caveat because people will be hearing me say that and say, well, what about trauma? What about war? What about racism? What about various things? Racism is a systemic issue. That is what we are here to dismantle. There is no human left behind. We will not be able to anchor the new earth with a single human left behind. It will just be unacceptable. And we will want to remember our wisdom that those peoples that carry the most amount of wisdom are the ones that are typically most oppressed by the controllers. So instead, ask the question, what is the wisdom that is held in that community that I am being purposely programmed to view that community as something other than magical? I will just say for ease.
Yeah.
And then trauma is also not a problem. Trauma is trauma. And so I like to be clear what I mean by problems. Here's what it means to live in neutrality. I go to the grocery store and someone doesn't hold the door open for me. In the problem paradigm, I say, oh, that person was being rude. How did they do that to me? Etc., etc. And then I go into the grocery store and someone bangs into me with the cart and I say, people are dumb, how we think as humans, you see. In neutrality, I say, that person did not hold the door open for me. Or I might even just say that person walked in the grocery store. I don't need them to hold the door open for me, you see? I'm not making meaning of their behaviors because they might have just had a cancer diagnosis and the last priority for them is making sure that I like them as a complete stranger for having manners holding the door open. Maybe they bang into me with the cart and I say, oh, well, perhaps they just were served divorce papers, you know? I don't assume that it has anything to do with me because I am certain it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But what will happen in the problem paradigm is we go home and we have to post it on Facebook and gather attention for how much of a victim we were made. We have to call all of our friends to talk about the problems that happened at the grocery store. What I mean by the problem paradigm is these are self-created snafus, I suppose I will say, that we want to keep alive because we bond through problems. We bond through complaining, we bond through gossiping, etc. When we remember that every single human is here, no single human will be on this planet unless they are a vibrational match for this planet. We like to judge the people, oh, they're asleep, oh, they're low energy, oh, they're bad energy, oh, they're dark energy. Even the controllers are necessary for our growth. The issue is that they have overstepped our agreement that they have had with humanity. And that is why myself and many other great mothers will be coming back now to say, this is not what we agreed to. You must get back in line. But we need the dark.
Yeah. It's a part of the process.
Yes.
The darkness is there to help us see the light that is in us.
Yes.
You know,
and there are many wonderful things that happen in the dark. You know, many foods grow in the dark.
Yeah.
Right?
It is there to help us to see better who we are.
Yes.
And again, it is our perspective as to how we look at the dark. You
Yes.
know, what is the purpose? I remember I did a teaching the question was, what is the purpose for my pain?
Yes.
Because we all suffer pain to some degree.
Yes.
And I began to expound to them that the purpose of your pain is to open your eyes as to your health.
Yes.
You know, that it's afforded there for you and you can obtain it, but you must change your perception on your pain and understand the purpose of your pain. And once we do, then we begin to move through things much faster. It is all our perspective. How do you look
Yeah.
at the dark time in your life? Do you put it on
Yeah.
Facebook and bond with your neighbor because you guys are suffering the same thing? Or are you willing to take the necessary steps to grow up, to become a mature human spirit, if you will, while you're here? And one of the things I also believe, Mother Malia, that is the programmers have instilled in us is that judgmental perception of life, like you were talking about going to the store and someone didn't open the door. That person may not even be there in the sense where they've just heard some information and they're coming out. And you know how humans get when we have these news and whatever. We're there, but we're not there.
Yes.
And she may open or he may open the door and not even knowing that you're there, and yet we could start a war with that individual based on that fact. And you said why? Because we have allowed that judgment to come in and become critical of our neighbors, of our friends, of our people, based on your feelings or your interpretation of what they did, and you have no data to prove any sense of what you're feeling, but yet you are able to condemn them and judge them from something that simple. And as you said, we rush to Facebook and stick it up there and start announcing our pain, if you will. And so I mean, this has been such a wonderful, and thank you so much for coming and bringing that data to us as to who we are and our responsibility in the matter, if you will. And today, as you said, you came to alert us to, and I want to thank Jennifer for standing down, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to honor her for standing down to allow you to come and have an opportunity to speak with us. So I want to honor her as well for her obedience, if you will.
Yeah.
And I want to say thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much. And yes, I am like this 24/7 now. So I really also had to go through the grieving process of my human parts, if you get what I mean. My
Yeah,
human stays around long enough to be the tether to take care of the more human things. Malia runs the show about 80% of the time. Yeah.
yeah, that's why I wanted to stop and say thank you because I still
Yeah.
know that symbiotic relationship is there,
Yeah.
that exchange is there. So I wanted to thank you both for your willingness to allow each other to exist and
Oh,
to come and to share with us. And so everyone that has been listening to us, I am going to provide all of the data, the information, the links. We're going to have everything for you to get into her space so that you can be assisted in and allow yourself the opportunity to find out who you are. Allow yourself the opportunity, the privilege.
yeah.
When you do that, it's taking some time out of your busy day. And it's okay. We understand why you're busy because you're plugged in. But if you want to come out for a little vacation, come out. I challenge you guys to get in touch with Mother Malia and begin to change your perspective, which will change your life, which will change your destiny. Thank you so much for coming to Thoughts in Life.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been such a great honor.
Same as us. Thank you. Hey, what a privilege and an honor. Thank you so much. That has been a really good. I love that.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully, you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.